morning. Welcome to Intentional Parenting with Patty Brooks and Amy Wong and special guest Candace Jones. Sorry for the delay this morning, but it's brought to you by our World for Children.
Candace, welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
Sorry for the delay after you drive so far. So we want to hear your story this morning.
How far back do you want me to go?
How far do you need to go back? So tell me, what was the first idea, spark, or whatever you want to call it, of deciding to do foster care?
Well, I think this is probably pretty common to people who are in the church. We were starting to notice scriptures a lot more, and we were starting to really, the stories of foster care were starting to stand out and seem a little more pertinent to us, a little more personal to us. And the nice thing was that my husband was feeling it at the same time. I think that's always a plus when both spouses
yeah,
are,
which usually doesn't happen.
It's true. And so we were blessed in that way, that we were both feeling that pull that at the same time, but we were also both as reticent to do it. We really had, our lives just seemed very simple, and everything was just on an even keel. We had certain times that we liked to be, in bed by, and just a simple life. But we had started doing some volunteering down at a homeless shelter in Dallas called Dallas Life. It's one of the largest homeless shelters in the Metroplex. But what's different about Dallas Life is that they take in whole families. So families that are displaced have a chance to get back on their feet, and their kids don't end up in foster care because they don't have a home. So we're seeing a lot of these kids that they were maxing out on space there, so there was not room for other families. We also at that time started seeing a lot of young adults that had placed out of foster care.
Okay.
And that was really the hardest hitting argument God was giving our hearts for getting into foster care, because 30% of children, or as they become adults, if they place out without finding a family, 30% end up homeless. It's actually 33%, and that's just unacceptable. And we would think back to when we graduated high school, and we had intact families.
Right.
I was lost as a goose.
And how ready were you? Yeah.
Yeah, I was ready to go out, but I was still lost as a goose, not knowing what was up or down. My mom still had to tell me,
right,
bail me out of a few things. And so I thought, well, I had someone to call. I used to go on holidays. These kids, young adults, they turn 18 and they're set out into the world. And as y'all know, foster care in the state of Texas, if they age out, or even if they're adopted from foster care, they can go to college. The tuition is free at state colleges and now even technical schools. But only 3% ever use it.
Which is so sad.
So sad. They don't have anyone to go take them by the hand, sign them up to classes. I mean, it's just
It's
rudderless.
overwhelming for them. Yes.
So we were seeing this a lot, and it just seemed like we were at a desk where people would come in, and we would interview them and then talk to them and get all of their information in the system before they were given a room. And that kept coming up over and over. My husband and I were each in a different room, and at the end of the night, we would be telling each other the stories, and it just was obvious that this was a problem in our system. We had read a book called Under the Overpass. It's a very short book, but it's two young men that graduated college, and they took a year of their life to travel homeless to the major cities in the United States. And they had a theology background, I'm not sure, but they would visit a lot of the churches too. And it's very eye-opening if you ever read that book on how we as Christians talk about doing the right thing, but whenever it hits the road, the rubber hits the road, how we really react when we're up against these young men who are homeless in their eyes, and they lived as homeless people, so they weren't, shiny, and they probably didn't smell that great. They would go into these churches, and they weren't always welcome. So anyway, it's a hard gig to place out of foster care. It's a hard lifetime gig. There's, I don't know the exact percentage. I want to say it's 70-something% of the men in prison in Texas have spent time in the foster care system. And the higher percentage, up towards 90, are fatherless in some way, even if they weren't in the system. So they need these parental, this guidance. These figures to know what it looks like.
It doesn't always mean somebody to adopt them.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. There's so many ways people can help. And so we were seeing this, and we were just feeling the Lord really pulling us to foster. So we kept trying to make deals with them and telling him other things that we're doing.
Yes.
I always feel like Jonah, whenever he was told to go to Nineveh and he hopped the boat to go to Tarshish. There's lots of people in Tarshish.
Right.
What's the big deal? So we would try to find other things to, show the Lord that we were rowing our boat. But he wanted us in foster care. And we absolutely love it now.
And what year was this that all this
Let me think.
came about?
It was probably around 2012, I want to say.
Okay.
Probably 2011, maybe. And then we got licensed, I think, in 2012.
And so when you got licensed, did you ever, did you go into it saying, oh my gosh, I want to adopt X amount of kids, or
Nope.
how did you go into it?
Well, we did have a number in mind. It was 0.
Yeah, ours was 1.
We told everyone.
She tried to get out of foster care. She wanted kids.
Right? We had a boy and a girl. We were at, I call it our table for 4. Walk into a restaurant, no one looks scared when you say table for 4, and they say right this way.
And now you go in and people say, are you on a field trip?
Yes.
Yes.
Or is this a daycare?
Yes.
We've been told that if we go to the tubes and stuff, they'll say, we don't allow daycares. I'm like,
Yes.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
our family.
Right.
Yes. So we told all of our friends and everybody that we were just here to, well, in our minds, there were people waiting to adopt these beautiful. As you know, there's this period where biological families have, usually about a year to a year and a half, theoretically, to try to get their kids back. And half are reunited, biological family. Half, usually, about half, become available. Well, in our minds, there's a line waiting for these beautiful kids. Who wouldn't want to adopt these beautiful kids? So
Right.
we're just going to take care of them.
You're
and
just going to
help.
fill in the meantime, right?
Yeah, well, we're here for the gap. No
Yeah.
problem. You sign us up, Lord. We were not going to adopt. Well, of course, these kids come into your home and they
In your heart.
are, yes, you can't take care of a child and look in their eyes and reassure them when they're afraid and put them to bed.
Right.
And they're calling you mom and dad because they want a mom and dad so
Right.
bad. And that you are their mom and dad, and that's all she wrote. So we are now on our 6th adoption. And you know that story.
And then you have 2 bio.
We have 2 bios. They are 17 and 19, and they grew up as, foster siblings to, all of these children that have come through the home. And I have just been amazed at the young adults that they are becoming and have become. And believe it or not, they want to foster and adopt one day, which blew my
That's
mind when
wonderful.
that
Yes.
changed.
Yeah.
Because at first it's hard. It's a hard adjustment.
Yeah. It's hard to make them share their home and their family
And their
parents.
parents.
Yeah.
Yes.
Their toys.
Yeah.
Their TV, their video games. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you know, when other kids play with something that's careful.
Right.
I joke that the best business in the world that should go on Shark Tank is the backs to every battery cover. They're
Amen.
always missing.
Yes.
Where do those
Yeah.
go?
What is it about that?
Why do they pick those off?
Yeah.
So there needs to be a universal battery back
Yes,
cover.
our
So that would
remotes right
drive
now.
my son crazy.
Yes. Our remotes right now have no battery covers on them.
Well, Shark Tank is waiting for you, Patty. Come up with a solution.
There you go. Duct tape.
That's what my husband said. It's already been invented.
So you and your husband were both on the same page at the same time when you decided to foster. So you fostered how long before you adopted?
Oh, let's see. I'm so bad with numbers. I want to say we fostered for about a year and a half before our first child came. By the time we adopted him, he was almost 2. He came to us about a year and a half into our our fostering process, our fostering life. And so the first kids went back. They were successfully reunited.
Oh, great.
And that's a cool story. They actually came from a family that was in the occult. And they could not get enough of Sunday school. That was their favorite thing. They also came to us with very specific ideas about segregation and not mixing with other colors. We have a man in our church who is a teacher, and he is African-American, very large African-American man who taught for years. When they left to go back to their family, he was their favorite person on earth because he taught one of them math. She said, I had no idea I was smart.
Wow.
And he, part of the issue with their family is very dysfunctional. She was just told that she was not smart. In other words, she's like, I can't wait to go back and tell everyone in my family I'm smart. They just had no idea.
Wow.
But they took their scripture book. We had a little ABC scriptures, and she said, Mom, can I take this back with me? And I said, oh, of course I should have offered it to you. It's yours. She said, well, I've got it memorized, but I'm going to go teach my parents.
Oh, wow.
She said, they know who Jesus is, but they don't know what he did for us.
Wow.
And believe it or not, I ran into the CPS worker about 6 months or 8 months later, and she said when she went back to check up on them, they were going to church, and they had a home church. This family in the occult
That's amazing.
became believers. And that was a successful reunification.
Yeah, no kidding.
But after they left, and we had a few short-term situations, and then the baby came. And they called us, and we did not foster babies because, again, we did not want to be, we wanted to leave them for all the people lined up for these babies. Right. So we were so surprised that they said, we need y'all to consider this. And I said, well, we can borrow a crib. I can get some bottles. It'll be fun for a little while, have
Temporary,
a baby. Sure. Right. The kids will get a kick out of it. My teens, back then they weren't teens, but sure, this will be fun. Be a lark. And they brought him in, and they put him in my arms, and I thought, oh, I'm in trouble. This baby, he was so cute. He still is. He's 5 now. And he was only going to be there for a few weeks because there was someone who was getting a home study done, and, that story.
Right.
So it was just for a few weeks, so no problem. Well, the weeks turn into months, and the months turn into almost 2 years. And but we knew. I looked at my husband, who was playing with him one day and feeding him and trying to burp him, and this little baby's trying to smile at him, this little toothless smile. And I said to Derek, Derek, I really need to talk to you. And he didn't even look over at me. He goes, I already know what it's about. I'm right there. He says,
Aww.
I'm right there with you. And I was like, I was worried about what to say,
Yeah.
because here our kids were, getting to be preteens.
Right.
We're talking about a whole new game plan with the baby.
Oh, yeah.
Patty likes to start over, too.
Yes.
And over, and over, and over. Yes.
Never too old to have a baby in the
I
house.
always say, our youngest is 3 now.
That's right.
This was a whole lot easier 30 years ago than it is now. I go to bed every night and think, oh, my God, I'm too old for this.
I do this.
And I get up the next morning and it's like, oh, my God, she's so cute.
Yes.
And then I'm revived and it's like, okay, I can do this. And then at night, I'm like, oh, my God, I'm too old for this.
There's a scripture, renew a steadfast spirit within me, Lord.
Yes.
Renew it.
Yes.
And there's some nights I'm with you, I'm putting my pajamas on, and I'll kind of look up at the ceiling, are you sure, Lord, you chose the right person? And the next morning, I'm ready to go again.
Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
So you actually have a Facebook ladies Bible study, right?
Yes.
That a lot of foster moms are on.
Oh, you know what? We do. We started, the schedule. We were a group home at one point.
Right.
Which anyone listening, a group home at the time, we don't have them anymore, but you could have 10 kids in your home.
You can have up to 12.
Oh,
because we had up to 12. We had 12. Yeah, when we were.
All right. Well, we could only have up to 10.
Okay.
At the time. And so, Texas came through and changed that, and they phased group homes out.
Right.
So we were maxed out. We had our 10th kid in our home at the time, but they had not finished the paperwork.
Okay.
So they came and removed her. And that was kind of a sad story.
Aww.
But while she was there for the few weeks, some friends of ours had visited. They visit about once a year. They came by to visit, and they ended up adopting her.
Oh.
So she had to be in our home.
What an amazing story.
During those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they never fostered, they never adopted, they went to classes just to get her. And I will tell you, homegirl is living large. They have Porsches in this family. She's going to private school. I was like,
that is wonderful.
Me.
Really. Yeah. That is amazing. That's a cool story.
But yes, so we had no time, and I was really missing. And so I was going to BSF, but it seemed like there was a child that always got sick on Wednesday or something that would keep me from being on time, or I just was always a fail ISF. And that's always on Wednesday mornings. So I was praying one day, and I was like, okay, Lord, all I've got is the only time I can have a Bible study in my home is in the wee hours before the kids go to school. So I started a little Bible study at 5:40 a.m. in my home, which is ridiculous, right? And I posted it on our neighborhood Facebook page. And 3 years later, we still have a 5:40 a.m. Bible study that meets every week. It's the longest Bible study that I've ever been a part of. But, moms like to come and read the Bible together. So, and then we get home in time to wake our kids up for school, or or whatever. So
Don't you do one online too, though?
I just started one online because
Yes.
we had people saying, I would love to do this, but I live too far.
Now, if you did that at 5:40, I would be part of it.
I do.
You do not do it at 5:40.
Now
You
what
do
are
it
you
at
gonna
6
do?
o'clock.
Well, that's true. That's true.
But if you would move it to 5:30, I could do it
Would
because
you?
my kids get up at 6.
I see. You're like, you do not. You're right. I turn the phone on or I open that at 5:40 and we start at 6. So you would miss it.
Yeah, see, I miss it. Yeah.
I was going to call your bluff.
Now, see, I'm up by 4, so if you want to do a 4 o'clock one, I'm there.
Now you're
I could
calling my
do
bluff.
it. I could do that.
Oh, wait. I couldn't hear you. What was that?
Just change your schedule. Get the kids up at 4.
Yeah, well.
Get them out of the house.
No, we don't want them up at
Y'all
4.
sit outside and wait on the bus.
It's
We've
coming.
got Bible study.
So, Candace, tell us, there is lots of scripture out there that tells us about caring for the orphan,
Yes.
why we should do that. So let's talk about that for a minute. What is your favorite?
Well, I think James 1:27 is the one, and I was looking up earlier in Psalms. There's one. Let me find it. Mine is James 1:27, and I think that is the one that most people, it's the religion that our
Pure.
God our Father accepts as pure and faultless,
Yes.
is to look after orphans and widows in their distress. But there's one in Psalm, a father to the fatherless, a defender of widows is God in his holy dwelling. So a father to the fatherless. Because I think that's a little more descriptive of who these kids are.
Yes.
I mean, they're not all orphans like people think of as orphans. They do have a biological mom and father out there usually. The scriptures about fatherless are the ones that I think, are where society is really needing to step in. Look, what does a father look like?
Right, because a lot of people, when you talk about orphans, they think about third world countries, these kids that have no mom and dad.
Mm-hmm. That one is the one that I think is most, and it's Psalm 68:5. But then in Psalms 146, he talks about the fatherless too. He watches over the foreigner and sustains the fatherless.
I love John 14:18, where it says, I will not leave you as orphans. And that, I think, is just really touches my heart, because it's a promise that no matter what, we're not going to remain as orphans, and that there's hope. I'm not sure if you saw our show a few weeks ago when the Baileys were on here with their
I didn't see that
daughter.
one.
So Jay's 18 and aged out of care. And I had saw on Facebook where she had said how hard it was to age out, and how every decision you make, depends on. And so the Baileys came on, and Jay came on and was telling her story about aging out of foster care, and they asked her to be adopted on the show.
Oh, wow. I'm going to go back and look at that.
And she was adopted last Monday
Oh, my goodness.
at
that
18.
Was,
Yeah.
That's beautiful. We had a young man at the shelter who told us that was the hardest part of foster care. I asked him, once we became resigned to doing foster care, my husband and I started, while we were training, we started actually asking the ones that aged out, because we wanted, tell us what was hard, tell us what to avoid, tell us advice. They were always so generous to, once they realized, even this, or do that. And one guy said the hardest part of foster care wasn't being in foster care, it was aging out. My time was up.
Yeah.
I didn't have a family.
Yeah.
I also want to tell you on the scripture, it's not specifically on foster care or adoption, but the kids that come through our home, we do ABC scriptures, and their favorite one is usually, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. That is, always seems to be a one that
Something
they kind of
for them
grasp
to
onto.
hang on to, yeah. I can see that.
So I wanted to mention that when we're talking about scripture.
So now that y'all are not fostering anymore, right?
The state won't let us. They said
You're
too many
maxed out,
kids. I
right?
said, what? Have you even heard of Patty Rooks? I know that's not the case.
Oh,
There's
please.
got to be a way.
People always say that. Well, how did you end up with 20 if it's, if we can only have 6? But
Maybe we took them all.
I do get called the kid hoarder.
Well, that's what I want to tell people now. We're not setting out to take kids.
No. Isn't that the truth?
We're not trying.
It's just, I see these kids, and it's just such a shame that people are, we license people every week, and we hear people say, I want kids 0 to 5 or 0 to 3.
Their shopping lists.
And not that there's not a need for that, because there is. There's a need for anyone that'll take a child, period. But there's so many kids that are just waiting to. And I think one of the saddest part, our daughter Precious told us that, she was 16 when we adopted her. And she tells a story about being she was in a group home and down in Midland, Odessa. And she talks about how that as in foster care, being an older child, that you do not look forward to your birthday, because every birthday you have means that you move further away from the chance of getting adopted.
Oh, that breaks.
And I think, oh my God, that's heartbreaking. People think about,
that's terrible.
Kids in foster care, we should give them gifts and things like that. But to think about that they do not look forward to their birthday. And to this day, she is 23 now. I might have got that wrong, so she's probably going to be texting me saying, God, Mom, you don't even know how old I am. But she still does not want to celebrate her birthday every year when it rolls around.
Because in her mind, she associates.
Yes, it's a negative. It's a negative thing in her mind. And so every time her birthday comes around, a week before, she starts telling me, now, Mom, I don't want anything for my birthday. I don't want cake. I don't want to, and of course we do something every year.
That is a powerful story that people need to hear.
Yeah. So sad.
I can totally understand that. My father was one of a sibling group of 5 that was adopted.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And it never, honestly, when I was growing up, it was not something he talks about that much. He was 10 years old when he was adopted.
So were they adopted together?
No, they were all separated. And back then, it was a little more brutal even than our current system. They would all go to one house, and they would pick, and then they'd go to the next. It was, and my dad would try to, anyways, just it's all sad, but try to talk the families into keeping, several. But he never really talked about it that much, and he's such a great guy. He's a great example of how, their story's not. You get him with the family, and the story's not finished yet.
Right.
And such a great character.
And he must be so proud of what you're doing.
He loves the kids. He loves them, and he's a really funny, very buttoned down. He's like a Bob Newhart kind of guy.
You should have brought him to the show.
Oh boy, you would have gotten a kick out of him. He wears dress shoes with shorts and everything. He's that kind of guy. He recently. You do? That's my dad. He recently had some sort of day surgery, and they said, just wear pajamas because your wife's going to drive you home. And he said, oh, really, wear pajamas? They said, well, just pajamas because you'll be comfortable. And when you get, he says, okay. So he shows up, and he had his starched khakis and his starched shirt, and they said, we told you to wear pajamas. He said, I am. They're under here. I wore them underneath.
Did he really?
Yes, he really did.
Gosh.
That is funny.
I was like, Dad, that totally defeats the purpose. He goes, well, I was following directions.
Wow. He has to be so proud of you, though.
He really gets a kick out of these kids, and the kids love, he's Poppy. Everybody, they all love him. And they get a chance to have a grandpa, so.
Well, that's really wonderful, because so many cases, it's not like that. It's the families that don't want to accept those kids in.
I think, in the Bible where it says, you have to love me so much that it's almost like you hate everyone else, even your family. You have to just set your mind. We had a lot of resistance. Now, not from him. I mean, he's just, he has a background that he was excited about it. But, the rest of the family doesn't else is.
Right.
So I was thinking about John the Baptist walking around eating, honey and locusts. I mean, they would have probably tried to talk sense into him.
Right.
So everyone tried to talk sense into us, and especially as you keep adopting. Like I said, we're getting
people think you're crazy. Right?
Yes, and you can't save them all, and I think sometimes people say that to, it's like, well, we're not trying to save them all, but have you met this one child?
Right.
You tell him that.
Yes.
And so, we talk about kids getting stuck, like you talk about Precious dreading those birthdays. We were going back to get a home study to adopt again. We were going to adopt a little boy at about, we put 9 to 11 on the ages. Now we've never put ages on things, in my opinion. Most
Our girl, right?
True. And so they want cute, cuddly. I can have an impact on them. Well, you can have a big impact on these kids. So we were going back in specifically for this when we got a call about a boy. And he wasn't in foster care, but he was getting ready to probably enter the system.
Okay.
And his family had passed away, and he'd been left. Was a legal. The mother had a long sickness, so she had time to prepare paperwork to legally leave him with some people. And they weren't able to care for him, and they were in living conditions that CPS didn't feel like were in his best interest. So a friend of someone who we went to Sunday school with called us and said, "You guys adopt kids?"
Wow, that's amazing.
But it was specifically the age.
Don't you love that, how people just hear about you? And one of my favorite stories is we had we live out in the country on a farm to market road, and one day it was in the summertime, and one of my kids came in and was like, "Mom, there's someone out here that needs to talk to you." And I go out, and it was this lady had pulled up in a pickup, and she is Hispanic, does not speak English. I do not speak Spanish. I have several Hispanic children that do not speak Spanish. And so she's trying to tell me something. She has 3 kids it's like an extended cab pickup. And they're standing up. They have no car seats, and they're standing up in the back floorboard and talking to her. And so she's talking to them back and forth and trying to make me understand. I have no idea what she's talking about. And this one little boy, he's probably 5 or 6, and he says, "My mom wants to know if you're the lady that she can drop off kids with."
Oh my goodness. Did he mean permanently?
I don't know.
Bless his
Yeah.
Yeah, you're that lady.
Yeah, isn't that crazy though?
Well, and even the person that contacted us, I mean, there would be no reason he and his wife, I mean, they had, a little child, one little child, but, hey, we're the ones that do that.
Yes. Yes. Isn't that crazy?
And they're nice as can be. It's just it never occurred to them.
Yeah,
exactly. There's a child who needs somebody. We better call the Rookses.
Because they know what to do, right?
Yeah. Dill said 22 is the answer.
That's what he said?
There you go.
Oh, I thought you meant 22 kids was the answer. I think that's what he meant.
That's what we heard, Dill.
This is a family show. He can't cuss on here, so could you not make him type that? And my mom wants to know, when is the next adoption?
Oh, that's a good question. So we're just now getting paperwork started, but I'm going to invite her.
Okay, Mom, you're getting a personal invite.
Absolutely.
So y'all have not done the paperwork yet?
We're doing it. Well, we've got legal guardianship.
Oh, okay.
We've got legal guardianship at this time, and he is in school. So we're kind of establishing that 6-month magical time period when you're recognized in the eyes.
So how often do you have people say to you, we heard this all the time, we still hear it, is this going to be the last one?
Every time.
For a long time, we would say,
yes.
Okay, yeah, we're going to adopt this one, but this is the last one.
Yes.
And then we learned that we couldn't put a limit on God.
I think he hears that and he goes, challenge accepted.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I don't hear it audibly,
yes.
but I'm pretty sure that's the phrase that goes on up in heaven.
Yes. We learn to just, when God's done, then we're done.
When we adopted the last child we adopted, we left the courthouse in Fort Worth and we went to that old pancake house that's near downtown. Okay, so that's where we'd go afterwards. We went to have pancakes, and there was 9 of us at this table, and little Texas, the redhead, she looked around. We just left the courthouse, and she looks at Derek, and she said, when we go out to eat, there's always an extra chair because we're an odd number. We need one more kid.
There you go.
And I thought, she just said that in front of God and everybody.
Right.
And one more is coming, but Derek laughed so hard. He said, the ink's not even dry on the last one, so let's just give me a minute.
That is cute. So, Candace, y'all are very busy people. You have all these kids, lead 2 Bible studies, and y'all have 2 restaurants, correct?
That's true.
So tell us about your restaurants.
Well, they are seafood restaurants. My husband retired from Microsoft after 20 years, about 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so we were looking for something that was opposites.
Because you were bored.
This is my
And you
mom's
need
favorite.
something
We need
to
more to
do. Okay.
And we were looking at different businesses, and the business broker we were working with said, I know this is outside of what you're looking for, but hey, there's this great restaurant down in this small town, Granbury, and it's for sale. And just for grins, I said, let's just drive down there. Granbury's, we've got friends down there. We'll meet them for dinner. We went down there, and they had the best jalapeno cheese grits ever. Everything there is
Well,
made
that's
from
a good
scratch,
reason
right?
to start a restaurant.
Why wouldn't you just go ahead and...
Yeah.
And so we met them for dinner, and we had such a great time, and we really enjoyed everything. And we came back, and my husband's from the West Coast. I grew up now down near the Gulf. I've lived in Texas, Louisiana, and Florida, always on the Gulf. And he grew up on the West Coast and was very into seafood. So we said that was some of the best seafood. And we, at one point in our lives, we were foodies. We knew the best restaurants that served seafood in Dallas. We were like, we really enjoyed that. You know, like we were craving it. Within a few days, we wanted to go back. So we're looking at different businesses, and I said, you know, I wouldn't say no if you wanted to do this, you know, if the numbers are right and everything. And so we just stepped out on faith. And I'll tell you, my son goes to school now. He's 19. He goes to school down in Tarleton. And so he works there and helps us. And it's really been a fun family thing. Sometimes our younger kids get to help out during the parades. They are the lobster and the
I love it.
the crab. They're famous.
Do they
feel
fight
famous.
over who's going to do it?
Yes.
Oh my God, I love
They're
it.
these huge mascot costumes, and they stand in the back. We've got a 46 Dodge pickup with flames on it because the name of the restaurant is
Right.
Flame Seafood. And they sit in the back and they wave at everybody, and they're like, "We're famous," but you can't tell they're famous because they're in the mascot costume. So cute.
Very cute. So you opened the restaurant in
Granbury.
and
then we bought the second one in Weatherford.
okay.
It's only been about 4 or 5 months now for the one in Weatherford.
Okay.
And so, anyway, it's been going great. People are coming and they're really supportive. The community's been very supportive, and we make everything from scratch, so that helps. The cooks are amazing.
What a blessing.
It's been a blessing. It's been a lot of fun.
So how do you balance that with the restaurant and the kids and everything going on?
Well, people always say you're so busy. I don't feel any busier than I did with one child. I really don't. And that's so counterintuitive. And I don't think I would believe me either if I heard someone tell me that.
Right.
But it's true because everyone loves to play together. They really do. No one's bored in our home. When people say, my child is bored, and they post, what do you do when your child says they're bored? That never comes out of my kids' mouths. We have a chore jar, number one, looming on the counter. And I always say, pick a chore, but they play together. And they've learned, I think bigger families, the kids do play together better.
Yes, I agree.
do, because you don't just have one option.
Right.
If that person doesn't want to play Legos, somebody does.
Right. You always have someone to play with or to fight with,
That's
whichever
true,
one
too.
you want to do. Right.
And I will say the kids are so sweet-spirited together. But we also, here's the other mother's secret of big families. Everyone is in charge of the one below them. So when we're leaving, if this one doesn't have both shoes on and her hair brushed, I look at the one that's slightly older than her and say, why is her hair not brushed? So no one wants to be the one getting in trouble,
Right.
so they make sure the other one
Other
below
one has
them.
done it.
Yes.
Good idea.
There you go.
Good
Parenting
idea.
tip for big families.
There
right
you go. And I haven't heard of that one before.
I don't have to comb everyone's hair.
So
that way.
have you ever left one somewhere?
We've never left. So I've thought I have, but we've never left anyone. Now, we have showed up places without shoes. I don't know how a kid gets in the car barefooted.
Mine does it all.
That
Well,
makes no sense. does it?
I had a call from our pre-K teacher a few years ago when Keegan was in pre-K that said Deal was responsible for taking him to school that morning, and he sent him to school in 2 different boots. One was black and one was brown. But that wasn't the bad part. They were both left feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, see, my 3 girls that are close in age always get shoes the same. And one time I saw my little Zoe out there playing t-ball, and she had both shoes were the same, but they were both left feet. And I was looking, and I thought, how did that? Oh, she got 2 of the left ones.
Right. Well, Deal has, now he's going to, I'm sure, reply to this. He has left a couple of kids before.
Uh-oh.
Not deal.
Yes, he left Bubba at church one time.
See, that was an accident because it was Bubba.
I was going to say, because I like
That
that.
was
I tell
purely
him
an
I like
accident.
that
That's
one.
not the one
if-
to leave.
If
Yes.
it had been some of the others, I'd have said that was a plan.
Yes, so he left Bubba, but don't worry, the Sunday school teacher ran out and stopped him in the parking lot.
That's hilarious.
And then we went on, we were on vacation, and he left one at a gas station.
A gas station.
And
I
he
have to
made
know
it to,
which one.
he made it to the next,
Which one?
I can't say, he
You
made
have
it to
to
the
say.
next exit before he was like, oh my God.
I have a friend now, just to reassure deal. I have a friend I grew up with whose family left her at a rest stop on a road trip. Yeah, and there were no
That
phones
is so
back then,
scary.
and then they noticed.
Yeah.
They thought she was asleep, and she's old enough to realize she still lets them have it, and it's all these years later.
Oh, wow.
But we've
I've
not
left
left
Charlie anything. I'd be more traumatized than he would.
You
be.
can't
It's
leave
true.
if you only have one child. You can't leave them.
That's true. That'd be hard to do.
Yeah, that would be
He
hard
does-
to do.
he
Unless
does-
you did it on purpose.
He does run off. Last year, he left Mom's house while she was babysitting while I was out of town.
That's scary.
Yeah, went home. She called me and she's like, "Did you come get Charlie?" I'm like, "I'm 2 hours away."
Oh,
No, what do you mean? Did I come get Charlie? Where's Charlie?
Oh, yeah, I would be in a
He had-
panic.
Now I live on one street. Mom's on the street behind me, and there's only one entrance from the main road to get onto my road, and you have to take it all the way around to get to hers. He left her house, went home, let our big giant dog in the house. In
Oh,
the
my
bed with him,
goodness.
locked
Aw.
the doors and turned on cartoons and fell
How
asleep.
old was he?
4.
Well, see, that's independent.
I said, "You better kill him because if I get there, I'm going to."
Oh, wow, that's impressive, though.
Oh.
You made it home.
Yeah, that was it's scary though. But I've never left him. Mom,
I've
have you
never-
ever left Charlie anywhere? Okay, our time is up though.
Well, thank you,
Sure,
Candace, so
sure.
much for
You
joining
have to come back
us.
so we can finish talking.
Absolutely.
Yes, but we want you to bring Dixie with you.
Absolutely.
Because we want to hear about being a sibling in a crazy big family.
I think that's a great show subject.
But I still think that we should take the podcast and go out to the restaurant.
I think we'll do
I'll tell you,
that.
it's delicious.
We'll
Come
do
back
that,
for some
guys.
jalapeno cheese grits.
Well, thank you so much, and
Thank
we'll
you.
see y'all next
Candace
week
Jones, my
on
mama's
Intentional
hero.
Parenting.
All right.